Hello everyone, and welcome to the Easy English Way. I'm really excited that you're here today because we're going to talk about something that has puzzled many English learners. Have you ever been in a situation where you can watch a movie in English, understand every word, and even read articles with ease? But when it's time to speak, you suddenly feel like you've forgotten everything? Maybe you know exactly what you want to say, but your mouth just won't cooperate, or your mind goes blank. If that sounds familiar, then stick with me because today we're going to uncover the reasons behind this strange but common problem and share some practical ways to overcome it. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll feel much more confident about speaking English. Let's start by looking at how our brains work with language. When you listen or read, you are using what we call passive language skills. This means that you have plenty of time to understand, process, and even reread or replay the words you hear. Imagine watching your favorite TV show and knowing that you can pause the scene whenever you need to catch a word you missed. That's the beauty of passive learning. Your brain is relaxed, absorbing the language at its own pace. But speaking is a different story. It is an active skill. Speaking requires you to produce language in real time. Think about it like this: you are a musician. While listening to music allows you to enjoy the melody at your leisure, playing an instrument means you must hit the right notes exactly when they're needed. In conversation, there's no pause button. Your brain has to quickly find the right words, form them into sentences, and deliver them before the other person finishes talking. This immediate demand can be a big challenge, especially if you haven't practiced it enough. One of the main reasons many learners struggle with speaking is simple. They do not practice speaking nearly as much as they practice listening or reading. It's very common to spend hours watching English shows, listening to podcasts, or reading books, but very little time is spent speaking. It's like learning to ride a bike by only watching others ride. You might understand the concept perfectly, but until you actually get on the bike, you won't learn how to balance and pedal smoothly. Without regular speaking practice, your brain doesn't get the chance to train for real-time conversations, and that can make speaking feel awkward or even intimidating. Another important factor is the fear of making mistakes. I see it in many learners' eyes. Even strong English learners hesitate because they worry about sounding foolish. But here's the truth: mistakes are not your enemy. They are a natural and essential part of learning. Every time you stumble over a word or phrase, you're not failing, you're growing. Remember, perfection is not the goal, communication is. If you focus on getting your message across rather than saying everything perfectly, your confidence will grow, and fluency will follow. Now, let's talk about another challenge: the habit of translating everything from your native language into English. This is something I have seen time and again. When you try to speak, you might first think in your own language, then translate it into English, and finally say it out loud. This slows you down and disrupts the natural flow of conversation. Imagine trying to run a race but stopping at every corner to look at a map. That's what translation does. It interrupts your pace and makes it hard to express your thoughts quickly and clearly. Instead, immerse yourself in English as much as possible. Think in English. Speak in English. The more you practice, the more your brain will naturally process thoughts in English. And over time, you'll speak faster, smoother, and more fluently, without that long pause of translation. Another reason why speaking can be so challenging is the pressure to have the perfect vocabulary or flawless grammar. You might understand most of what you hear, but when it's time to express your thoughts, you suddenly feel like you don't know enough words or that your grammar isn't good enough. Let me be honest with you. Even native speakers sometimes struggle to find the right word or construct the perfect sentence. The key here is to build your vocabulary and use it regularly. Every day, try to learn a few new words and phrases, then practice using them in sentences. This will help you create connections in your brain, making it easier to recall words when you need them. Over time, your vocabulary will grow, and your confidence will follow. So, what can you do to overcome these challenges? Well, the first step is to practice speaking as much as possible. Even if it feels uncomfortable at first, remember that every time you speak, you are making progress. Start small. You can begin by talking out loud to yourself. Describe your surroundings, explain what you are doing, or simply read a paragraph from a book out loud. It might feel strange initially, but with time, you will notice that you become more comfortable with the sound of your own voice. I also want to share with you an exercise called shadowing. Shadowing is a fun and effective way to improve your speaking skills. Find a short video clip or an audio recording of a native English speaker. Play it and try to repeat exactly what you hear, matching their tone, speed, and pronunciation. At first, you might find it challenging to keep up, but don't worry, this is perfectly normal. With regular practice, you will begin to notice that your pronunciation improves, and you start to mimic the natural flow of the language. This exercise not only boosts your speaking skills but also helps your listening skills, making you more aware of how sentences are naturally constructed. Another technique I highly recommend is recording yourself. Yes, it might feel a bit odd at first to hear your own voice, but trust me, it is incredibly helpful. Record a short monologue or a conversation with yourself about a topic you enjoy. Listen to the recording afterward, and pay attention to areas where you might need improvement. Perhaps you notice a hesitation here, or a pronunciation issue there. With each recording, you will gain valuable insights into your speaking patterns, and over time, you'll see significant improvement. It's also very useful to join language exchange groups or find a speaking partner. When you practice speaking with someone else, you experience real-time conversation, which is very different from practicing alone. Many online communities and local meetups offer language exchange sessions where you can speak with other learners or even native speakers. The more you engage in these conversations, the more natural speaking will become. And remember, the goal is not to speak perfectly, it is to communicate. So don't worry too much about minor mistakes. Focus on the conversation, share your ideas, and most importantly, enjoy the experience. Let's also discuss the idea of setting realistic, achievable goals for your speaking practice. For example, you might decide that for 1 week, you will try to speak in English for at least 5 minutes every day. It doesn't have to be a long or formal conversation. It could be as simple as describing what you see in your kitchen or talking about your plans for the day. Small, consistent goals are much more effective than trying to force yourself into long, intense speaking sessions that leave you exhausted and discouraged. As you gradually increase your speaking time, you will notice that your ability to form sentences and express your thoughts becomes smoother and more natural. I want to share a personal story from my experience working with English learners. I've met many students who can understand and write English effortlessly, yet when it comes to speaking, they freeze up. One of my favorite success stories is about a student who, at first, barely spoke a word during our sessions. Over time, we introduced simple speaking exercises, such as describing pictures and role-playing everyday situations. Slowly, he started to gain confidence. The key was that he didn't worry about making mistakes, he simply focused on expressing himself. After a few months of regular practice, he was not only speaking more fluently but also engaging in conversations with native speakers. His progress was a clear reminder that with practice, patience, and the right mindset, anyone can overcome the fear of speaking. One important thing I want to highlight is the value of a positive mindset. Believing in yourself is one of the most powerful tools you have as a language learner. It's easy to get caught up in negative thoughts, thinking that you're not good enough or that you'll never improve. But let me tell you something. Every expert was once a beginner. Embrace your journey and celebrate the small victories. Every time you speak, even if it's just a few words, you are taking a step forward. Remember, learning a language is like building a house. You start with a small foundation, and over time, with every brick you lay, the structure becomes stronger and more impressive. Another point to consider is the environment in which you practice. Creating a comfortable and low-pressure space for speaking practice can make a huge difference. Whether it's speaking in front of a mirror, recording yourself in a quiet room, or chatting with a friend over coffee, the goal is to reduce the stress that comes with speaking. A relaxed environment helps your brain focus on what you want to say, rather than on the fear of making mistakes. Over time, as you get used to speaking in these comfortable settings, you'll find it easier to transition to more challenging environments like group conversations or public speaking. Now, Let's talk a little about the role of listening in improving your speaking skills. Even though we mentioned that listening is a passive skill, it actually plays a huge role in shaping how you speak. When you listen to native speakers, whether through movies, podcasts, or conversations, you absorb not just the vocabulary and grammar, but also the rhythm, intonation, and natural expressions of the language. I often recommend that my students pay close attention to these details. Listen to how a native speaker stresses certain words or how they pause before an important idea. Over time, you will start to mimic these patterns naturally. This process is part of what makes shadowing such an effective technique, and it helps bridge the gap between understanding and speaking. I'd also like to share a simple exercise that you can do right now. Take a minute or two and look around you. Pick an object. Maybe it's a clock, a cup, or even a plant. Now, speak out loud and describe the object as if you were explaining it to a friend. What does it look like? How does it work? What makes it interesting? Don't worry about making mistakes. The goal is to simply get your thoughts into words. This small exercise might seem trivial, but it is a powerful way to train your brain to think in English and express ideas without overthinking every word. It's also important to remember that every conversation you have is a learning experience. Sometimes, you might feel that you are not improving fast enough, and that's completely normal. Improvement in speaking comes gradually, much like learning to ride a bicycle. There will be times when you feel wobbly, and that's okay. Each conversation is like taking a pedal forward, even if you stumble a bit. Over time, those small steps add up, and one day, you will look back and be amazed at how far you've come. I want to encourage you to experiment with different methods and find what works best for you. Maybe you enjoy watching TV shows and then discussing them out loud, or perhaps you like to record yourself narrating your day. The important thing is to keep practicing. If one method doesn't seem to help, try another. Some days, you might find that speaking with a friend is most helpful, while on other days, a self-recording session might be the best way to boost your confidence. Flexibility and consistency are key. The more you practice, the more you will see improvement, and the sooner you will start to speak English with the ease and confidence you desire. Before we wrap up today's video, I want to leave you with one final thought. It is completely normal to feel nervous or insecure when speaking a new language. Even though I speak English every day as my native language, I've seen so many learners struggle with this transition from understanding to speaking. The truth is, speaking is like dancing. You have to practice, sometimes stumble, but eventually, you learn to move with the rhythm of the language. Every word you speak, every mistake you make, and every conversation you have builds up your fluency. Remember, progress is not measured by how perfect you are, but by the courage to keep trying. I truly hope that today's discussion has helped you understand why speaking English can sometimes feel so challenging, even when you understand it perfectly well. It all comes down to the fact that speaking is an active skill that needs regular practice, a positive mindset, and a willingness to embrace mistakes. I want you to take these insights and apply them to your daily routine. Whether it's practicing with a friend, recording yourself, or even talking to yourself in front of a mirror. Every little bit of practice brings you one step closer to fluency. Thank you so much for watching this video on the Easy English Way. I hope that you now have a clearer idea of why speaking can be difficult and, more importantly, some practical tips to overcome these challenges. Remember, you have the power to change your habits, and with consistent practice, you will see improvement. I invite you to try some of these techniques, and I would love to hear about your experiences. Please leave a comment below about the challenges you face when speaking English, and share any tips that have worked for you. Your story might inspire someone else on their journey to fluency. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the Easy English Way for more practical tips and engaging content on learning English. I have many more videos planned that will help you boost your confidence and master the language in fun and effective ways. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you next time. As we wrap up, I want to remind you that speaking English is a journey, and every conversation is an opportunity to improve. Enjoy the process, be patient with yourself, and remember that every native speaker was once in your shoes. Embrace your mistakes, celebrate your progress, and keep pushing forward. I believe in you, and I know that with time and effort, you will speak English with the confidence and ease you deserve. Once again, thank you for spending this time with me on the Easy English Way. Keep practicing, stay positive, and enjoy every moment of your language learning adventure. I can't wait to see you in the next video. Until then, take care and happy learning.